This is a topic that is a little more than a bit dark, but it desperately needs every ounce of attention possible. In my in-depth study, I will be talking about slavery in the 21st century. My topic sentence is more like a question we all need to ask ourselves when studying the world today. Did slavery really ever end? In this presentation, I will be talking about what we think of as slavery. I will also present the different kinds of modern-day slavery. I'll also give some examples, just because talking about this theme overall often makes the issue feel more distant from us, and therefore I'm going to talk about the issue overall, but also give you some examples of real-life victims in hopes of making the theme a little less distant. I'll also be presenting some facts. Most of us think of slavery as an ancient thing. When hearing the word slavery, we think of the triangular trade, Afro-Americans being discriminated, and cotton fields. But this is slavery today. Horrible and atrocious acts done to people all over the world. And who's to blame? You and me, or the government? Modern slavery is defined as a situation where one person controls another by exploiting a vulnerability. Some industries that have a high count of slavery victims are the clothing industry, the seafood industry, cannabis factories and nail bars, escort services, massage parlors, and strip clubs. And these are only just to mention a few. Here are some types of exploitation. Sexual exploitation. A person trafficked for sex may be controlled by violence, threats, substance abuse, deception, or grooming, with extreme physical or psychological domination. Forced labor. Forced labor is work done under the threat of a penalty, such as violence or harm to a family. Victims are often further controlled by debt bondage. Domestic servitude. Domestic servitude is when a person is forced to provide services with the obligation to live on or in a property without the possibility of changing those circumstances. Either way, these are people that are being put against their will and forced to live in horrible and dangerous conditions. And among these are children, women, and thousands of abused families and individuals. This is Sandhya. She is 7 years old and she lives with her grandparents in Nepal. The picture below is a picture with Sandhya and her parents. Her dad is dead and her mom is gone. Sandhya smashes rocks for a living. Her mother had to leave Sandhya in order to get a job in India. She sends money to Sandhya and her grandparents from India, but she has to work as a prostitute. She does what she can in order to improve Sandhya's prospects. It is so easy to say that we could have just saved Sandhya from these horrible conditions. But only in Nepal there are over 4 million Dalits, just like Sandhya and her grandparents. If you think that's a lot, I'm sorry to tell you that 40.3 million people are in forced labor, sexual exploitation, domestic servitude, and forced marriage worldwide. But the number is most likely much higher. $150 billion are made each year from forced labor. And babies younger than the age of 1 and people up to the age of 63 have been confirmed victims of modern slavery. Human trafficking has become its own industry. where victim services are viewed and sold as goods, just like other industries such as food and clothing industry. Human trafficking is driven by supply and demand. However, with companies like, for example, McDonald's, once you sell all of your food, it's gone. Humans, on the other hand, can be sold over and over and can be exploited their entire lives. Thousands of girls and boys all over the world are exposed to sexual exploitation and forced marriage. These people are often victims of many of the same actions that are found in human trafficking. You could say that this is a form of human trafficking. Although direct sexual exploitation and forced marriage is easier to spot than human trafficking, many of the human trafficking cases are never brought into the light, whereas sexual exploitation cases are often just not addressed. The prostitution in some places happen openly, even though it's illegal. This is a big problem in countries where the economy is bad. One example is Cambodia. In Cambodia, a girl is worth nothing and she is a thing that you can buy and do exactly what you want with her. And just to make the case even worse, 1/3 of the trafficking victims in Cambodia are children. Every 2 seconds, a girl under the age of 18 gets married. Bangladesh is one of the countries with the highest count of child marriage, where nearly 50% of the girls who get married too early are under the age of 15 years old. The law in Bangladesh says that you have to be 18 years old to get married, but the law is constantly under pressure and few people uphold it. Once a girl gets married, her education stops right away and she loses her independence. She will have to live by her in-house rules, which are determined by her parents-in-law. The husband doesn't like when his wife is talking to others, and therefore she is supposed to never leave the house. In addition, she will always have to hide her hair, because her hair can be sexualized by others and found attractive. If the girl isn't pretty enough, the husband might lose interest after a while, which often leads to them beating up their wives and having sexual intercourse with other women. This is Shanda. She is a 15-year-old from Bangladesh. Her parents want her to get married, but Shanda has other hopes and dreams for her future. She knows a lot about the dangers of child marriage, but she also knows that this might be her future. Shanda loves to study and does really good in school, which is why she doesn't want to get married. Her mother says that it's really hard to pay for both Shanda and her sister's education, and that's why she wants Shanda to get married. Shanda's dream is to study and become a teacher. She says that she wants to make money and be independent so that she could help with her parents' economy. Shanda has big dreams for her future. But for most girls in Bangladesh, their dreams doesn't matter. All in all, the trading of humans for the purpose of forced labor or sex trafficking is a lot more real than most people understand. It's a worldwide epidemic that is increasing every year. It's a hot topic for many people to face, and it's hard to comprehend how people can be so cruel. We're all equal, and no one has the right to take away anyone's life for any reason, especially not personal gain. The victims of these tragedies increase daily, and it involves not only just the victims, but also their families. I think I've made it pretty clear how I feel about this topic, and I could not say anything else than that human trafficking and forced labor for sure equates to modern-day slavery. Our responsibility is to be aware and report any suspicious activity of human trafficking or forced labor to the appropriate authorities. Some may say that slavery, as most of us know it, has ended just because slavery was abolished 150 years ago. But yet, there are more people in slavery today than any other time in history. How could so many of us have missed out on this global issue? Slavery today is certainly just as real as it was 150 years ago, and there is no excuse for the horrifying acts some of these people are being exposed to. There is, of course, some actions that are done to prevent modern-day slavery. Some things that we can do is join anti-slavery organizations, raise funds for anti-slavery organizations, raise public awareness through, for example, campaigns, concerts, exhibitions, etc., volunteer in slave exporting countries, and vote for anti-slave laws. Unfortunately, most of modern slavery is found in poorer countries where these organizations and laws often are missing or won't reach out to. Nevertheless, it's our responsibility as rich and wealthy countries in the West that we take care of the countries in poorer conditions. Would you, for example, be willing to pay a little extra for your clothes to be made in proper conditions with the chance of giving the workers a healthy and beneficial lifestyle? These are questions that we need to start asking ourselves when buying objects, articles, or services. It's easy to consider our actions as of no use and that it don't matter what we think or do to help. But who is going to help Sandhya or Shanda if we don't? We certainly know that the authorities won't act. I've made it pretty clear throughout this presentation how slavery never ended, even though it's said to be abolished. Therefore, it's time to act. I'm getting tired of hearing about people being exploited and abused their entire lives, with no one feeling like it's their concern. Global issues need global solutions, and that can't be done by a country on its own. Stand together and fight modern slavery. Thank you for your attention. These are the sources I have used for my presentation. Lastly, I would highly recommend you that you watch these documentaries. I guarantee you that they will be 100% worth your time.